Yuval Weber. He's a research assistant professor at Texas A&M University's Bush School of Government and Public Service. He also joins us from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, Yuval. Firstly, this summit will be taking place in a backdrop of a historically low relationship between the US and Russia. We've had recent ransomware attacks on US companies which have been blamed on Russian entities, as well as the poisoning and arrest of the Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. How crucial is this summit between the two leaders?
So it's important that they're at least talking to each other, but the expectations are actually quite low. During the Cold War, summits were often used in order to come to some specific agreement that had already been negotiated, wherein the leaders would come and actually sign the documents after, checking each other out. Here, the best thing that can happen is that they arrest the decline in U.S.-Russia relations, and that might be too difficult because of the things that you've mentioned. And also, just at its core, the United States and Russia have very different national interests. And in the difference of those national interests, there's more that divides than unites. In terms of the things that President Biden and his team said ahead of time, they want a stable and predictable relationship, quote unquote, with Russia. To Russian ears, that sounds like a recipe for ignoring Russia. And Putin, in the 20-plus years that he's been in power in Russia, has tried to make Russia a great power that is not just acknowledged by the rest of the world, but specifically acknowledged by the United States. And so all of the things that American policymakers don't like, electoral interference, the ransomware, plus everything else, Georgia, Ukraine, etc., those are the things that get him the attention of U.S. presidents. So it's actually in his interest to do these things, because otherwise, why would American presidents pay attention to him? That, of course, runs counter to his ultimate desire of being taken seriously as one of the top leaders of the world, who is just has a veto role in international affairs, the security architecture of Europe and the rest of the world.
We know Joe Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump, was seen as Russia-friendly. In contrast, Joe Biden has called Vladimir Putin a killer. He's also looked to really take him to task over alleged Russian interference in the last US election and the one before that, in fact. Do you think Joe Biden will continue to take a tough stance against Vladimir Putin?
So sure. So Biden, unlike basically all of his post-Cold War predecessors, does not have any specific diplomatic goal that requires Russian assistance. Clinton with NATO enlargement, Bush with combating international terrorism, Obama with non-proliferation, and Trump with trying to get the United States out of the Middle East, they all needed Russia for something. And that basically set the tone and the parameters of each one of these previous summits that Putin has been involved with. All the things that Biden wants to do, such as climate change or re-entering the Iran nuclear deal, those are already in Russia's interests. So because Biden doesn't actually need anything, Biden is going to be able to choose the exact level of confrontation or coercion that he thinks will be useful for getting what he really wants. And the things that Biden really wants, and that he thinks there's some basic room to negotiate, is on nuclear arms agreements to see where it can go from there, and on this issue of cyber attacks and ransomware. A lot of these things come from Russia, and Biden wants them to stop. But again, the fact that these things happen, those help shape politics in the United States. And so that is, in fact, the reason why Putin either, allows his intelligence agencies to do these things, or to basically turn a very blind eye to these actions which come from Russia, perhaps from private hackers, but with the knowing acknowledgement or assistance of the intelligence agencies.
Okay, Yuval Weber, we will have to leave it there, but thank you so much again for joining us on TRT World.